Hi everyone, it's Tracy from Temperance Tarot. Time for my September wrap-up. I can't believe we are already through September. But I'm going to apologize in advance for the sucky lighting. It has just been cloudy here for days and it's going to be cloudy for a couple more and I need to get this done. So we will do the best we can with what we have. I'm going to start with the tarot decks that I used this month, and we're going to start with the 78 Tarot Carnival. This is an independent deck, and I know it's out of print. I don't know if you can still get copies, because some of these 78 Tarot productions, you can still find copies on the Etsy shop. But it's a lovely deck. Obviously, I'm having trouble putting words together this evening. It's a lovely deck, but it has the problems you would expect with a collaborative deck. The art styles are quite dissimilar. And while each of the cards individually I think is lovely, when you put them together, they really just don't form a cohesive whole. They don't tell a story. Here's a good example. If you put these two cards together, they just don't work together for me. Oh, and then now we've got a cat dressed as a person. And pet peeve alert, it really bothers me when they dress up animals like humans. But the cards individually are beautiful. I think this was the third one, that collaborative deck that they did. They had the 78 Tarot, then they had the 78 Tarot Nautical, and then they had this one. And then they did the Astral one. And now they're working on a Gods and Myths type one, which I might be interested in that one, but I did not back it on Kickstarter, so we'll see. It did fine, especially, it does great for one card pulls. It does really great for one card pulls. But when I tried to put it together with others, you know, in a spread or something, it just didn't quite do it for me. And I do love this Five of Wands, though. That's one of my favorite Five of Wands because it's showing teamwork rather than conflict. It's a different interpretation. But I've got so many decks that I like so much better. It's not that this is a bad deck. It's just a deck that I'm not going to reach for. It's not going to be one that I use. So I am going to put this one in the to-go pile. Next, we have the Dark Goddess Tarot by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. I do not have the printed copy of the book that goes with this deck, but I did buy, cards are a little slippy on this deck. I did buy the app so that I could have the book. I actually liked this deck a lot. But not as a tarot deck. I liked it as more of an oracle deck where I pulled a goddess for intention or I pulled a goddess to be my goddess of the day. The book is really good, really fabulous. And I like how many options there are. There's lots and lots of goddesses that I've never heard of. So I'm going to keep this deck, but I'm not going to use it as a tarot deck. I would do this for single draws because I think there is so much in the message for each of the goddesses. Or they're not all goddesses. Some of them are, and I can't remember because I used this one a while ago. I used this one early in the month. But they're spiritual. So this one's a keeper. Amazon had a few decks that they marked down for some reason, and this is one of them. It had been on my list, the Sun and Moon Tarot, for a long time. And I think they took it down to like $14. So I said, okay, for $14, I'm going to go ahead and get it. And we've also, I mean, this is a very, very popular deck. It's kind of all over the place. I lost the little white book. Oh, there it is. These are the title cards. I really, really love the images on this deck. I really, really hate the keywords because they are Thoth keywords. They are strict Thoth keywords. And I'm not real big on the keywords. But the images, because they're not really pips like the Thoth deck is, the images work really well to read and get a meaning out of without the keyword. And the other thing is the quartz. Give me a second. Let me find a whole suit, and nothing but the suit. Okay, here we have the quartz of the pentacles. And I love the color in the background that ties them all together. But you can see it's sort of a hybrid of Rider-Waite and Thoth, because we have a princess, a prince, a queen, and a king. And in Rider-Waite, we have a page, a knight, a queen, and a king. And in Thoth, we have a princess, a prince, a queen, and a knight. So it's an amalgamation of the two. And all of the kings are on horses, the way the princes, I mean, not the princes, the way the knights are in the Rider-Waite, which is what the kings are on in Thoth. They're all on horses. So you can see that it really is an amalgamation of the two systems. There's some other examples here. I just love that Hierophant. I just think he's fabulous. I had to show him. But like with the Judgment card, the Aeon card, it's called Aeon in the Thoth system, and it's called Judgment in the Rider-Waite-Smith system, and they've got both. Same with Art and Temperance. And the image looks a lot like the Temperance image from the Rider-Waite. So it's really kind of an amalgamation of the two, which is why I would really like to get rid of the keywords. And I don't know how I can get rid of the keywords without just taking it down to the bare image, because you see on the majors, you have the Roman numeral and the card name at the bottom. And on the minors, you have the keyword and the card name. So to get them all the same size, I would have to take them down to just the image. And then I don't know that I would need the titles of the cards, because they are generally pretty easy to tell what they are. But I don't know. I don't know quite what I'm going to do with it, because I really love the artwork, and it reads, if I just ignore the keyword, it reads beautifully. And in a spread, they're fabulous together. That simplicity has some, I don't know, there's some sort of unifying thing about this deck. And I usually like good facial expressions, and none of these people have faces. But yeah, I really, really like this deck. I can see why it's so popular. I got this one rather than the one in the tin simply because it was on sale. And I'm not sure how I'm going to use it, but I'm going to figure out a way to use it because I think it's a really great deck. I might just take it down to the art. We'll have to see. Because it takes a lot for me to cut up a deck nowadays. I am very hesitant to cut up a deck. But I really think I want those keywords gone. There you go. Another deck that I've used this month is the Whimsical Tarot. And this is another one that I got because Amazon had, you know, I wouldn't call it a sale because that's not really what Amazon does. They just all of a sudden will mark it down $3 or $4. And so I went ahead and got it. And I kind of like this one. It's fairy tales and nursery rhymes. And it's fairy tales and nursery rhymes that I'm actually familiar with. I would say 75 to 80% of these cards, I know exactly which fairy tale or nursery rhyme it's from, which is better than I can do with the TV tarot, and you'd think I'd know the TV tarot better. Anyway, I think it's adorable because I understand what it's trying to say. It just makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot of border to it, but I really like it. Like, this is the 5 of Rods, and that's Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby. Here we have the 9 of Rods. Oh, what's that? Little boy blue, come blow your horn. The sheep's in the meadow, the cow's in the corn. I don't know the rest of it, but they're the sheep in the meadow, the cow in the corn, and he's something about him being asleep. The King of Swords. The one thing I do wish I could get was I wish I could get a hold of the actual full-size book that goes with this deck, so that I would know a little bit more about why she chose certain nursery rhymes to go with certain cards, and some of the ones that I'm not familiar with. Here we have Temperance. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. I'm not quite sure what that has to do with Temperance. Judgment. I love that. That's Jiminy Cricket. He's your conscience. He's your guide. He's whispering in your ear. I love that. Five of Cups. Captain Hook and the crocodile ate his hand. Queen of Cups. The court cards are a little more ambiguous. You know, the Queen of Cups, not quite sure who she is. The Four of Swords, that's the Princess in the Pea. And my mom always used to make jokes that I was the princess in the pea, because I could never sleep when any sort of situation was not exactly to my liking. Queen of Rods. The Nine of Swords. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. The Four of Pentacles. Oh, I know there's a nursery rhyme about a dog dropping a bone into a stream, but I don't remember it. But he's saving his bones. Rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub. Nine of Pentacles, we have a leprechaun and a pot of gold. Three of Pentacles. I know this one, I just can't remember it. Six of Pentacles. Is that the shoemaker? The elves that come and make the shoes for the shoemaker at night? Ten of Rods. So yeah, I think this is a highly underrated deck. I never see anybody talk about it, and I think it is just precious. Seven of Rods, Jack and the Beanstalk. Ten of Pentacles, there's your happily ever after. Queen of Swords, that must be Little Red Riding Hood. Eight of Pentacles, now there's one I'm not certain about. The aces are fairly simple. The Nine of Cups is your wish card. There's your wish card. The Owl and the Pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea green boat. So anyway, this is a keeper. I really enjoy it. I've really enjoyed reading with it. I think it's adorable. Okay, and then the last tarot deck that I worked with this month was the John Bower Tarot. And this is a new deck that Lo Scarabeo just released in America anyway. I think in Europe they'd been able to get it a little sooner. This is a really cute deck. I believe that John Bower is, I would call him like the Arthur Rackham of Swedish fairy tales. He illustrated a whole pile of Swedish fairy tales, and I'm going to have to get some of those. There's a book that has his illustrations and some Swedish fairy tales in it it's on my wish list at Amazon. I just haven't pulled the trigger yet, so that I can maybe understand the upside down. The images a little better, but they fit really well. Most of the images fit really well into the tarot system. Now this is the new Lo Scarabeo, where they don't put all the languages on it, they just put numbers and symbols. So the Seven of Swords, this is Strength, the Ace of Wands. Look at that, look what's hiding in the woods. That's just adorable. I love the art style. It's not traditional tarot. I don't read it that way. I look at the image and see what it tells me. As here we have the two, which would be the High Priestess. And I can get a High Priestess-y kind of vibe out of that, but I might not read that the same way as I would read a more traditional High Priestess. That's the Hierophant. And he's a really old stone troll type of thing that these two kids have come to for advice and for wisdom. And the thing that I think about that's interesting about that is he's old and he's wise, but he's gotten to the point where he can't move. So he can't make any new forward progress. The only thing that could happen is people can come to him and ask him for help, or ask him for guidance or spiritual guidance. So here we have like the Eight of Pentacles. That's very appropriate. I wish that this deck was a little bigger so that I could see the images a little bit better. That's my only gripe. That and Los Scarabaeos kind of dropped the ball with the cardstock lately. They have gone to some cheaper, thinner cardstock that's not cut as well as, say, my Tarot of the Sweet Twilight, which has really great cardstock. You know, it's slippy but it's thick and it's substantial, and it doesn't look a mess when you pull it out of the box. Still, I'm still keeping this deck. I still think this deck is really cool and beautiful. I'm just a little bit disappointed in their sort of drop off of the quality of their cardstock. And this is the Devil. And you see him, he's just taking his goodies and flying away. I loved the Tower. I pulled the Tower when I was doing my readings. And that's like, there's this little person railing against that giant rock. The rock's not going to listen to you. And when the lightning strikes the rock's going to fall on you. Move out of the way. Oh, isn't that perfect? Four of Pentacles. Just great. Again, sorry about the glare. The Little White Book isn't bad. It's a little bit better than I expected. It actually gives you a little bit of a description. So here's the Queen of Wands. She is something, a sight to behold. Let's see what it says about the Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands. A field of flowers blossoms brightly. A queen, her crown removed, sits in the field, enjoying the moment. Meanings: enjoy the moment without pretense. Daring to be yourself, sharing yourself with others. So the Little White Book, I like the messages that they've put in this Little White Book. I think it's very nice. So this is another keeper. Judgment. And now we'll move into the Oracle decks that I used this month. In no particular order, I got the Dreamtime reading cards because after I got my little packet from Australia, and I'm keeping this little badge in the Dreamtime reading cards. I think it just belongs there. I decided to do a little bit more, research about Australia and what Australia is like, and as part of that, I got this deck. I'd always liked the artwork, but I thought, well, I'm not Australian. I can't possibly connect with that deck. And boy, was I wrong. I love this deck. I love the artwork. I really love the artwork. I love the messages. I think it's a fabulous little deck, and I think everybody should get it. It's fairly well balanced with, I wouldn't say positive and negative. I would say some more challenging. It has some more challenging cards in it that ask you to challenge your way of thinking, as well as some very uplifting cards. Requires the book. It's not one of those decks where I can just look at it and immediately interpret a meaning out of it. But that's, for an Oracle deck, I generally am using the book. When I do Oracle decks, I'm looking to get a message from outside of myself. So I pull the card that is supposed to come to me, and then I'm looking for the message outside of myself. And I love cicada cards. I love it when they put cicadas in a card. We have very, very noisy ones around here. So there you go, the Dreamtime reading cards. Gumnut Blossom. I am keeping those. I got the Bird Oracle deck, Birds Oracle deck this month. I love this deck, but I will have to admit that I think we've gone a little overboard with the matte cardstock and swung a little too far to the other extreme. This feels like rubber, and it doesn't like to come apart because it's so matte that it just, it doesn't slide at all, hardly. It does, however, riffle shuffle beautifully. but then you have to give it a good push to get everything back together. So I really think we've gone to the other extreme with some of this matte cardstock, and I think we need to find a nice balance. I have a really hard time getting this box open because the matteness of the outside of the box grabs a hold of the inside of the box and doesn't let go. But that is nitpicky because the artwork is absolutely exquisite. It has birds in it from all over the world, so anywhere in the world you could pick this deck up. The messages in the book are really, really lovely and practical and tell little stories and anecdotes about the creator's experience with the birds or her experiences in life, which just makes it so relatable. So this deck is definitely a keeper. I don't know all of the birds. I do know that's a dodo. That's an extinct bird. But they've all got numbers on them, so you can find them, go look them up. You know, some of the birds are in my backyard, and some of the birds I've never seen before. But it's a beautiful deck. And it came in the middle of Hurricane Florence. And there is the kiss of Hurricane Florence, because the mailman thought it would be a good idea to deliver mail in the middle of a hurricane. Of course, you know, it wasn't that bad here, but still, it sat on my front porch for, I don't know, maybe all of 20 minutes and soaked all the way into the book, but just a little bit. But I will always remember when I see that damage to that book that the birds came to me in the middle of a hurricane. Keeper, keeper, keeper. I do love this. On the inside flap, it says, "You are loved." I also used the Theta Wave Oracle this month. This one's very interesting. It's still stinky because it has this holographic coating on the outside of it. That shows pretty well. On the, not the back side. The backs are just kind of a spiral. But that holographic coating is pretty stinky. And they warned you of that. They said it right on their Etsy shop. When you open it, it will be stinky. I have to stick it up to my nose now to smell it, but when it first came, it was horribly stinky, and I actually put it in a Ziploc bag full of rice for a couple of days, hoping to relieve some of the stinky. But I think I would like it better without the holographic sort of. I understand why they did it, because it's supposed to sort of mimic the state of what things look like when you're in a dream, that they look kind of wonky and sideways sometimes. I really like the images and the keywords. Magic, that's you know, stones. Really cool. Curiosity. Are you going to go through that open door? Is that a risk? Adversity. I can't really tell what that, it looks like somebody was, you know, their handprints on the ceiling. There's a little shaft like a coal mine or something like that. Creativity. Ask. Agreement. Communication. You know, wires and things. So I really like the images that she chose and the messages she chose to go with them. This one's in the maybe pile, not because it's stinky. The stinky really doesn't bother me. I just don't know that it's going to be one that I don't really have an intuitive pull for it. So it might be willing, I might be willing to let this one go. I'll decide at some point in the future, I suppose. This is really interesting. It's opportunity, and it's just an empty parking garage. Survival in a forest. Vacation in a hotel. Creepy, haunted. I love that one though. Creepy doll. Treat. So the images make really good sense with the keywords. I think that's what I really like about this deck, is how much sense the images and keywords make together. I might give it another shot. We'll have to see. It's playing card size, so it's a really nice size to throw in your bag. But you know, I say that a lot, but I only have one deck in my bag right now, and it's the Morgan Greer in a 10. I don't tend to change it. I just tend to leave that deck in my bag. And then the last deck for this month is the Illustrated Herbiary 36 Bewitching Botanicals. I don't tend to do botanicals, but I so loved the artwork that, and it was, you know, just relatively inexpensive, that I got this deck, and I love the messages in this deck. I just love them. And one of the main reasons I got it is because of the daisy card. I love daisies. Daisies are my favorite flower. And a lot of botanicals decks and flower decks don't include daisies, and I don't understand why. Because daisies are so wonderful and so approachable and, you know, not fancy, not fussy, but beautiful at the same time. So I really love daisies. But this deck, the artwork on this deck, and the mess, I had to. So here are the actual cards. I'm sure you've seen this. Lots of people have shown it. The cardstock is horrible. You punch it, you know, they came in this little envelope here, and you had to separate them yourselves. I don't care. I really like this deck. Really like it. So this one is definitely staying in the keeper pile. I really wish this woman would do another deck and do a legitimate deck, because I really like her artwork. So there you go. There are my September decks. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.